So not cool, man. Stop the car! Whoa. Is that real blood, man? Drive! Okay, all right. Oh my God, why is that guy on the gun? Drive! Oh yeah!
Pass the dutchie on the left hand side. Pass the
I know I'm a little late to the party, but I saw the new season of Stranger Things, and it was surprisingly good, I guess. It was a very interesting season for me because while it definitely improves on a lot of the things I didn't like in the first 3 seasons, it also has a lot of the same problems, but just not as bad, but still it's a problem. The main selling point of this season that we were expanding the group to new locations like California and Russia. I don't know if it's just that the tone changed a lot over the last few years or the characters were just slightly less annoying, but I think I just preferred most of the main stuff that was happening in Hawkins. I just think the characters are really the best in this storyline, and the group dynamic is really fun, surprisingly, and I like how the story takes a lot of inspiration from other John Carpenter horror films and the first Nightmare on Elm Street. And whereas a lot of the other seasons felt very tame in terms of violence, this season was surprisingly pretty brutal. And I also really like the main villain, Vecna. The score in Stranger Things has always been really great, but I actually appreciate how the score genuinely elevates certain scenes and matches really well. And I think the editing really helped a lot too.
Who's Vecna?
An undead creature of great power. A dark wizard.
And I think the first 4 to 5 episodes is where the season really peaked. I found myself enjoying the characters a lot more, and I thought the story and the mystery was much more interesting. None of the other storylines were really as strong for me, but they didn't get too much focus since much of the focus was on the stuff in Hawkins. I really love the return of Robert Englund, and the Victor Creel stuff was fantastic. I just love how tense it got the more we saw of it. And like I said, I love the music and editing. And while I still really like his character and I think he's one of the best characters in the show, I really don't like how they made his character overly dumb for no good reason. I know he's not a super smart character or anything, but he isn't a complete idiot either. But I also really like Dustin, and I also like Robin and Nancy, and I even really like the stuff with the jocks and the whole Dungeons and Dragons subplot. I like how they portrayed mob mentality, and I like how they even incorporated the real-life satanic panic thing from the 80s. I even really liked Max this season. I was surprised how much focus she got. And yeah, I even really liked the use of the Kate Bush song running up that hill, and that whole sequence was absolutely fantastic and maybe one of the best scenes in the entire series. I will say I did not like the new character Eddie, like at all. His character was extremely obnoxious at first, and then he doesn't really do anything for most of the season and isn't really involved. And when he does get involved, he keeps constantly talking about how much of a coward he is, and he keeps running away from his problems, so it's so obvious he's going to be the character that bites it. And when he does die, they drag out his death scene for so long, and it just got annoying. And just in case his motivations weren't clear enough, they have this whole scene where they replay footage from the previous episodes talking about how much of a coward he is. And this show does this way too much, where they replay footage from the previous episodes like their audience is that dumb they can't make simple connections. I think his character would have worked for me if he had way more screen time and he was more subtle. Before I get into the really bad stuff, I will say that I really liked the Demogorgon fight in Russia, and I think that was the best part of that storyline. I forgot the explanation for how Hopper survived, but the point is he did, and he's in a Russian prison, so more fucking Russians. I fucking hated the Russians last season. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea to include more of them. At first it's a prison break story, but then they realize how boring that is, so the characters just sit around until they fight a Demogorgon all of a sudden. But then they need something to do in the finale, so they go back to the prison because there's monsters there. And if they fight the monsters, since they're connected, it will help the kids fight the other monsters. And they never even explained how the commies had their own gate into the Upside Down. Like, wasn't the first 3 seasons all about gates, and suddenly that's not important anymore? So either they forgot, or that means more Russians in the next season. In terms of the other 3 storylines that are not Hawkins related, I think the 11 storyline was the one I liked the most, even though it was just okay. A lot of it is focused on her reliving her past with the other experiments in the lab, and I think it's kind of cool that we get to see them, and it does lead to a really cool twist, but I think those scenes just really dragged out the show a lot more. You can tell that the pacing in the later episodes gets slower and slower because they need to drag this season out, but also leave just enough room for a season 5. And the finale is the best example of this because almost nothing happens in the 2-hour runtime, and they leave so much open for season 5. And I guess sometimes that's a good thing, but you can really tell if they really drag the episode out for so long just so Netflix can hold on to their most popular show for just a little bit longer. Back to the 11 stuff, I thought it was a really cool twist that Joanna was actually number 1 all along. Who was actually Victor Creel's son, who was actually Vecna, who was actually the Mind Flayer. I thought it was pretty interesting that was him under all that makeup because he does a really bad job at doing an evil voice when he's not wearing makeup. But it's a pretty cool idea to have an actual villain in the show that isn't just a generic monster. But after the reveal, Vecna's just such a boring character and they kind of wasted the potential behind that idea of him being number 1 all along. His presence in the season feels like more of a tease of what's to come rather than an actual reveal. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the B storyline where the characters who basically have nothing left to do just do nothing. The kid with the weird haircut clearly had a crush on Finn Wolfhard, but they didn't say it. There was a funny pizza man who was more entertaining than anyone else in the group. But besides him, everyone else here is just so boring. I think I liked Eleven a lot more this season, but I kind of wish she actually had much more to do in the main plot. She actually has a character arc this season and a good one at that. Like the scene where she reunites with Vecna was one of the most boring scenes in the entire season. The entire finale was just so anticlimactic and extremely disappointing. They had this idea of the characters all fighting monsters from different locations because they're all connecting and they're piggybacking off each other. But they just dragged it out and nothing substantial really happens in the first hour of the episode. They don't even explore how the characters feel about the world literally ending right in front of them. But Eddie did play the guitar and that was kind of cool. Also, they brought back the villain from the first season and I thought his inclusion was going to mean something, but he didn't really do much. And the way he died was pretty dumb. Overall, the season was pretty decent. I liked the characters a lot more this time around, the story was much more interesting, and the mystery building up to it was fantastic. I like the main villain and I like how they incorporated a lot more horror elements and the main twist was still really great. And while I do admire the idea, I wish the other 3 storylines were as great as the stuff in Hawkins. And the episodes did slowly get worse as they went on, and I wish the finale was slightly less underwhelming. But this is easily the best season of the 4, and can definitely tell they've improved in between the 3-year gap. And I am still pretty interested in what's to come in the apparent final season of Stranger Things, but given the state Netflix is in right now, I would take that statement with a grain of salt. Thank you guys so much for watching, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and I will see you guys all next time.
Chrissy, wake up!